Well, hello everyone. This is Susan for SLC Aquatics, hashtag FishFamMom, touching lives one fish at a time. Welcoming you to the live stream this morning, and we have a very important special guest, and his name is none other than Father
Fish at a time.
Fish.
Welcoming you to the live stream this morning, and we have a very important special guest.
Hi there.
And his
I'm
name
sorry.
is none other.
There we go. I
Thank
had
you.
to cut your volume off on my monitor.
Yes, I was hearing my replay.
Yeah. How are
But-
you, Susan? Delighted to be here.
Well, I am honored to have you as my special
Thank
guest
you
this
so
morning.
much.
And we've been talking about returning back to the natural aquarium.
Well,
and
that's great.
And I have a lot of questions, even though I've watched your videos. I still have a lot of questions, especially in my 55-gallon this morning. The substrate is 2 inches of black sand. And I know I'm going to have to go get some more sand. But my problem right now is that
What
it's
do you have under the sand?
nothing under the sand.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, add at least 1 more inch.
Okay.
Make it 3 inches.
All right. Do I remove any plants or just add it around the plants?
No, don't take, well, unless they're plastic.
No, all of this is live.
No, they're fine. Leave your
Hey,
plants in.
Even
You want
if,
as many plants as you can keep alive.
okay.
How long has the tank been set up? How long has
Oh.
that sand been in it?
Well, the sand's been in it much longer than I have had it because
Okay, good.
I bought it with the sand in it, and I've had it 4 years.
Oh, well, your sand is well cultured.
Have you remember seeing my swords that I showed Tuesday
yes,
night?
I do.
They were the
Yeah,
one
they
in,
look very nice. No,
Thank you.
you're fine. Just add another inch and you'll see an immediate change. Because what'll happen is, now I should say, once you do that, you never want to clean it. Never stir it up.
Okay.
If you do, it's like introducing poison. You can kill everything.
Okay.
Plants, fish, your cat, the works.
Okay.
Do not stir it up.
All right. Do you do a
But the
water
fact
check?
that it's doing, I'm sorry.
Do you do a water change before you add the sand?
Not necessarily. You can if you want to. I mean, water changes generally for a deep sand bed tank are arbitrary, unless there's some overarching reason to do it, such as cloudy water, green water, maybe. Chemicals that got put in the tank, which I never recommend. Something that has caused the water to become, well, like for example, the one test you should always run and should do routinely is a pH test. I have friends who maintain their tanks. You met Jerry yesterday. She maintains her tanks. I don't know what happened.
I'm still here.
Okay. She maintains her discus tank at about 6.2. Now, that's okay, unless you want to introduce new fish, and then you can have a serious problem. Because the new fish are going to be coming out of hard alkaline water, and that 6.2 pH could literally kill them.
I understand.
So you want to be careful about that.
Yeah, I understand that. I notice in my tanks that have been running for years, I've got old tank syndrome now going on, 3 and 4 or 5 years old. And sometimes I'll notice the guppies are a little lethargic. And so I'll test it and my nitrates are off the scale. And my pH is down to 6.0 instead of 7.2.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So
Yeah, the nitrates, the deep sand bed pretty effectively controls nitrates. Because nitrates are absorbed by plants. And the trick with the deep sand bed is to keep the mineralization and the waste product in the substrate and not in the water column.
yes,
So as the tank ages, you can be developing more problems in the water, and the solution to it is to add more sand, add another ½ inch to an inch of sand. The reason is you want to maintain an anaerobic layer. That anaerobic only occurs when you get below 2 inches, when you get deeper than 2 inches. So 3 inches becomes a kind of minimum for a deep substrate.
Okay.
And when you have that, in time the nitrates will get under control. The pH is a function of the hardness of the water. It's a matter of how much carbonates are in the water to be able to hold the pH stable. If you have low carbonates, then your water is going to become acidic. Has nothing at all to do with the substrate unless you've added. I don't know whether anyone noticed. I add diatomaceous earth to my mix when I mix up a system to add calcium to it. That adds the carbonates.
Okay. I'd like to take a break right here, Father, and say hello to those that are in the chat.
I'm glad you did that because I get to jabbering on and I'm looking at all the folks that have come in. Please do.
I want to say good morning to Don Gallagher, who was first in the chat. We have Abel L. We have Darlene Howard, Jay Jr. We have Fish Room Fever, Full Moon Aquatics, Chevy Fish, Pet Sotics, and I believe that's it for right there. I want to welcome,
JJR.
yes, Jay Jr. And I wanted to tell everybody welcome to the stream this morning. We got an early start on our conversation because I'm going to have to close out before the hour. And I want to get as much information from Father Fish in this live stream as possible. We got some people. Is there video or is there a problem on your end? Jay Jr., there is video. So you might want to refresh your browser, and that will reset your video and your audio if there is even a sync problem in the audio and the video. So Father Fish and I are talking about returning to the natural aquarium, and he has some awesome videos out when he started a 55-gallon, how he mixed his dirt soil and before laying a layer of sand and planting his plants and setting his rocks. So without going into detail, we want people to go back and watch that video. But Father Fish, I know you lay a foundation of dirt first, and you prepare that dirt with different minerals and materials that will help buffer that water column.
Right. Oh, I should also mention something I discovered last night. That YouTube has flagged that video because I had music in the background from the radio that you could probably hear now, some of which apparently was copyrighted. So I haven't learned what I need to do about that. If somebody has some,
well, since you're not monetized yet, what the copyright will just tell you that that video cannot be monetized, and in some countries it may be blocked due to the copyright issues. But if they said you don't have to take any action, you're okay.
Well, they did. They said that, but I need to avoid that somehow for the future.
Yes.
And my question was whether I'm liable for extraneous background sounds like radios playing.
Yes, we do have to be careful of what we're playing in our background. when we're live, and YouTube has an audio file where you can use
I saw that.
royalty-free music. So the only way that you're going to avoid that is to get you a lapel microphone that will do direct sound, and it will silence the music behind you while you're live, even though your
That's
music.
so sad.
Yeah. I mean, the birds and fish will hear the music, but we won't, and YouTube won't.
yeah. I have this radio on. We have a classical radio station here in Sarasota, and it started up around the time I started my shop, and I've had it playing 24/7 in my shop since then. So it's just part of the ambiance. And to learn that I can't share that with my YouTube friends is distressing.
Yes. If
Oh,
you're ever wanting to get rich off of YouTube,
yeah,
you'll
you
have
know,
to stop the
watch
music.
that stuff. All right.
Okay.
That's
Pet Sonics wants to know whether or not you have a store, and I can't tell from his video.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do. It's called Father Fish Aquarium, located in Venice, Florida. It's really a glorified fish room. It's an ode to old time fish keepers. And I had friends from decades and decades ago in mind to honor them and show respect to them when I put this shop together. So it's not the sort of place that people who are addicted to big box stores appreciate. And I've had people turn me in for having a dirty store, when in point of fact, they were upset about the fact that there were plants growing in my tank that they considered weeds and somehow dirty. So, so I get all kinds. But those are people I I encourage them to shop at PetSmart, where they'll be happy because they're not happy here.
That's right. I just shared the link to your Facebook page, Father Fish
Oh, very
Aquarium,
good. Yes.
and
Thank you.
they can contact you through that page.
You
By
bet.
all means, go over there, and I shared his YouTube channel earlier, so you can go over there and support him there.
We are looking to create a Get Fins page before the first of the year. I know there are people who wanted to buy some of my soil mix, so that'll be the first thing that that we're going to market, and then we'll go.
Are you talking about Get Gills with Dan?
Get Gills? Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Right.
That's great. We look forward to that. I also have a website, Susan. I have a website, slcaquatics.org, and I have a resource page on there, Father Fish. And I would like to also share your Facebook page there, so they can also contact you.
Thank you.
slcaquatics.org is a community website that I created last October, and I also feature our newsletter through that. So let's get back to the subject. It's 9:20 here a.m., 10:20 your location in Eastern United States. We have some friends here from Canada down the wormhole D. She has piranhas and guppies and live bearers and birds and turtles and snakes. She has it all. Welcome, Walford Fish Keeping. Why not just turn the music off for your information? A lot of old classical music isn't copyrighted anymore. But you'd be surprised, Brian.
Yeah, but some is. Yeah.
Yeah, people from other countries have bought our copyrights that used to be royalty free here in the U.S. Other countries now own the copyright, and that's how we can get hit. I played a song that was free on my iMovie app on my phone, and it was royalty free here in the United States. And the first 45 seconds of it got flagged for copyright because it was in 12 different countries. So you got to watch things like that too, Brian, at Rockford Fish Keeping. But
Chevy
Father,
Fish, I'm sorry.
go ahead, Father.
Chevy Fish asked me how long I've been in the hobby. There's the very first video I made has a wonderful story about that. You really should go back and listen. It's probably one of the videos that I'm most proud of. But since I was about 9 years old, and I'm 79, so about 70 years.
I think that's wonderful. Yeah, that's a really good video. I think it's one of your first introductions. But you have a soil mixture that you put underneath of your sand. How much sand do you cap that soil with?
2 inches. Excuse me, I have somebody at the window.
All right.
We're going to talk to him.
Hello.
Hello. You don't have any the Boise Tropis?
I'm out of the Boise. I've got two frontosa.
Yeah.
In the bottom tank. I have one Black Widow frontosa
In the top.
in the top tank.
Yeah.
Those I'm going to have a whole. I finally found a supplier that has a lot of really cool Victorian and Tanganyika stuff.
Okay.
I'll be getting that in after the first of the year.
Okay.
I've got a few shell dwellers and kind of a smattering of stuff. But
there's one fish on there. It's on that side. He's like this long.
with the fins.
He's got like stripes almost.
Yeah, it's
right?
a Julie to Chroma.
Yeah. What? How much is he?
He's 25.
25.
Yeah.
Okay. Those can go in with. Those can't go.
Pretty
in
much
with
everything.
They can go in Buddhas.
Yeah, it's big enough. Yeah.
That one.
I'm back. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I was just letting everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
I was letting everyone know that we were experiencing a live customer service at Father Fish Aquarium.
I did this past Sunday.
Yes.
I did a live stream for about an hour and a half. And we had people coming in and we're communicating. It was wonderful. It
I
was
love
just
it.
very fun. So I'm going to do it again this Sunday, starting at noon. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Well, I have a question earlier at the beginning of this video. So if you all want to go back and watch the replay later, I was asking Father Fish, I have a 4-year-old 55-gallon with 2 inches of black sand. And he said, go ahead and cap it with another inch of sand. And he said it would give me an immediate change. And the most important test that we should be doing as fish keepers is the pH test to let us know actually what our aquariums are doing. Because if you normally have hard water or 7.0, which is the balance, the neutral area, if you have that area and then your pH is dropping below that normal range of pH, you know you've got some issues going on in your water.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So
I tend to keep my tanks hard and alkaline, 7.5 and higher, with a KH of, I don't know, it's gone as high as 400. I use, excuse me, I have an RO system for my saltwater, and I use the wastewater from my RO for all my freshwater tanks. So my freshwater has a higher hardness, higher mineral content than even the tap water does. It's easier for me to do that because I have fish coming in all the time, and I don't have to acclimate them. If I had salt acid water and I've got fish coming in from a wholesaler that are in hard alkaline water, if I throw them in that salt acid water, they're going to die. So I keep everything hard and alkaline. occasionally I'll have a problem. Something will drop, and I'll notice it when I see dead fish in the tank. But I do try to keep up with checks to make sure things are staying up. Did I lose you? I think I've lost Susan. And I don't know if I'm live. I don't think I am. I think what's going on here? I think she's going. So, fine gravel, it sounds okay. I don't know whether I'm live or not. Oh, okay. I'm here. Oh, I see. Oh, fine. Well, let me just chat along then. Amateur aquatics use very fine gravel. So long as it's deep enough, I would do it 3 inches. The critical thing is you don't want water flow going through that substrate. You want the water flow to only occur as the cilia on the little animals that are living in there actually bring a current through. You don't want water flushing, in other words. So just make it deep enough to be sure of that. Rainwater for apistos. You can get away with that so long as you're not introducing new fish. The apistos certainly would love the rainwater. That's going to be neutral to acidic. You might want to do fairly regular routine water changes to try to keep that pH from drifting down too low. You don't want a 6.0 or lower pH for apistos. 6.5 to 7.0 is preferable. But rainwater is fine in that sense. Again, I don't use it because of other considerations.
Hi, Father.
There she is.
I wanted to also make a point that we made Tuesday night. If your system is working for you, by all means, do what's working for you. But if you wanted to go back into a natural aquarium situation that gives you long years of uninterrupted problems with your tanks, this is the way to go, natural tank.
Right.
Also, go ahead.
Gives you a forever aquarium. That's the principle. A balanced aquarium will seek to maintain balance. It's really a living thing, and it's struggling to stay alive and to stay healthy. The whole aquarium is. If you treat it as a living organism, it'll respond accordingly. You just need to give it what it needs to be able to survive. And the thing that is missed by more hobbyists than anything else is the absolute vital, critical importance of a deep substrate. That deep substrate contains layers of life that are fundamental to maintaining a balanced, stable environment. You cannot duplicate that with a whole series of mechanical devices. You can keep things going, but keeping things going is going to depend on you keeping things going. The trouble with that is that you, just like me, just like all the rest of us, are prone to failure. And at some point we fail. At some point we don't do what is needful to do, and the critters in our care suffer accordingly. By setting up a deep substrate aquarium, you're giving over control of the system to nature and allowing it to control and to take care of it. And it does a really good job of that. It's just kind of amazing how effective nature is at taking care of itself.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And if anybody would go and look at your playlist explains exactly what happens in nature. Most of our fish caught in the wild live in this, you said, in the same body of water. They're born there, they breed there, they die there. Most of them, you know.
Chevy Fish asked the question, when moving a deep sand bed aquarium, do I restart with the new or keep the bed? Keep the bed. Add another inch of sand to the top of it when you get to your destination, but keep it by all means.
Well,
And also never disturb it. Don't mix it up. Don't go in there with a gravel cleaner and try to get it clean. You want it to be as dirty as it can possibly be. And that's a lot dirtier than you want exposed to your water. So keep it covered.
well, I learned the hard way when I brought this 55 in. Even though I left the sand substrate, I disturbed it, and then 6 months later, I had camelanus worms in my angelfish, but I was able to treat her with levomycil, water changes, good protein diet. And I mean, within 24 hours, the camelanus worm was dead in her gut. And she survived to where she gave me over 30 spawns.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That was,
I see Jack and Dan are leaving to come to, they've been threatening to come visit. They're leaving after Christmas and they're planning to be here. So
yeah, I told him I'm severely jealous. But I wish them safe traveling mercies. Yeah, I know they're on their way to come see
Amen.
you.
Amen. Yeah, they're leaving Cleveland the day after Christmas. That'd be a long haul, but that'll be fun. You should stop at that most peculiar pet shop in Tennessee. My God, what an incredible place. That's my vision of what I want. I have city officials that won't let me keep half of the stuff they've got in that shop. So I'm a little more limited.
Chevy
But-
Fish says he disturbed the substrate once and he almost puked.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, there's stuff down there that belongs down there, and it does a good job down there. It's like you wouldn't want to bring your septic system into the living room, but that's what it is. It's a septic system.
And
It's
working
not a sewer.
with compost piles, etc.
Yeah, exactly right. When I teach about this, I use the image of an open sewer. For people who have gravel in their tank, they have an open sewer with everything's in the water column and everywhere, as opposed to a septic system, which you have when you cap that substrate with a couple of inches of sand. Now, the reason for sand, as opposed to something else, is that sand remains porous. And it's important for it to be porous, but to be porous at a level where the water's not going to be rushing through it, where the water goes through it very, very slowly. And it takes a full year for detritus laid on the surface to work its way down, be converted, and be taken back up into the plants. So it's an immensely slow process. So the deeper that substrate, the more can occur along the way. There are a lot of little animals at various strata that eat the waste as it's coming through. There's a lot more, and you can't have any of that if you have a bare bottom tank or even a shallow sand or gravel or whatever, a shallow 1 inch, or just a bare skin. You miss out on all of that.
Father Fish, what if you have cichlids that are sand sifters that actually burrow in the sand? Some eels and etc. that do that.
Yeah, I have tanks like that and fish like that. The Africans are notorious, the Malawis particularly. What I've noticed is, and also Central Americans, I've noticed that if you for tanks where you are going to have mountain movers, you do not want to use any kind of soil, just straight sand. 3, 4, 5 inches of sand. I try to do a very deep sand bed with animals like that. I've got a couple of tanks that have 6 and 7 inches of sand. And occasionally a pair of fish will get in there and nest, and they'll burrow all the way down to the glass. I've noticed it doesn't really hurt the water quality. They're only doing it in a small area. It's kind of a coned area at that. So it doesn't seem to disturb. And it happens slowly enough. It's not like an instantaneous, stirring it all up. That's the solution, though. You can't get away with using dirt. They'll just make a mess of things.
I know you answered this question one time before, but some viewers may not have heard it. If I have gravel substrate or eco-complete substrate in my aquarium, and I want to start converting over to that natural aquarium, do I remove that substrate or just
Not at all? Leave it in there, cap it. Just cap it. That's all you need to do. It's perfect. It's fine. The manufacturers want you to believe that all you need is their product. And if that were true, then the bottom of rivers and creeks and bays and ponds would only be a single thing. There are lots of things in there. If you cap the artificial substrate, what you'll be doing is you'll be converting that to you'll be converting that to a substrate that'll be able to break down weight. And you'll be separating it from the water column. That separation is really critical because it keeps the waste down in the substrate. You need to cap all of these products in order to be able to have a true balanced aquarium. Otherwise, you got a nice product, but it's only doing half the job.
My question is, when you talk about capping another inch or two of sand on what you already have, when does it get to be too deep and not enough water? Is there ever a time that you will replace some of that old substrate?
That's an excellent question. My position is I have a tank that's been set up for 10 years. It's a 50 low boy, so it's 12 inches tall. It has 5 inches of substrate in it because over the years, every 3 or 4 years, I've added half an inch to an inch of sand to it to keep it from being essentially overloaded. I believe when I get to the point where I've got about 2 inches of water left, I'll probably begin thinking about doing something else. The reality is, when you get to that point, you really have to break it down. There's no way to save it. You can save the substrate, put it in a new tank, cap it with a couple inches of sand, and be good to go. I mean, it's good material, but it's not anything you want exposed to your water column.
Are we talking about
when people ask me how deep it should be, my typical answer is at least 12 inches. But since that would pretty well fill a 10-gallon tank, it's unrealistic. So you put in as much as you can tolerate. So that's kind of the solution. Your substrate should be as deep as you can tolerate it. And if you can only tolerate 2 inches, you need to get over yourself because it needs to be at least 2.5 inches.
That's all. Get over yourself. Like you said earlier, a lot of us are afraid of substrate, but substrate should be the very foundation of our aquarium.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
A lot of mine are naturally running on a process similar to what you're explaining without actually technically doing it properly. I need to add sand to what I have, but a lot of people want to know, why are my tanks so clear? Why are they so you know, thriving? The plants are thriving because I don't disturb it. A lot of times I'll do just a water change, 10 to 20%, and I have done up to 50% because something was going wrong in the aquarium. But the bottom line is, the less you disturb it, the better it is.
Yeah, and Lucas is an excellent illustration of that. His 7 fish rooms. Now, while he does not have deep substrate yet in his tanks, he has undisturbed tanks with with a substrate that's doing its job. The main thing in his aquariums is their stability. It's a function of him leaving them alone and letting them naturally adjust to whatever the condition is. And again, water will do that. The life in the tank will do that. It'll adjust to whatever its reality is. Nature is not fragile. Nature is tough. It's tough, it's gutsy, it's strong, it's vibrant, and it's able to overcome. Just don't give it so much to overcome that it's struggling all the time. Give it a break, let it rest, let it get happy.
I like that. Chevy Fish is asking, is using Malaysian trumpet snails in a deep sand bed a no-no?
No, it's a yes, actually. Malaysian trumpet snails, when I have people come into my shop and say they have an infestation of snails, I say to them, actually, the snails are the only thing that's keeping your tank alive because you're putting so much food in there that you've exploded that population of snails. They're working hard to keep up with your foolishness. So stop feeding so much.
That sounds good. In tanks like I have, I raise guppies, so easily that can become over colonized and put a strain on the beneficial bacteria and the anaerobic nutrients.
Yeah, that's
substrate.
Yeah.
So it's important to keep those colonies within a minimum. You need to cull some out and keep the stock that you have in that aquarium equivalent to what your aquarium can perform.
Well, you want to add sand and add plants. I remember years ago there was a barber shop up in Newton, Mass, where I was living, and he had about a 75-gallon tank in his front window that had literally thousands of guppies in it. It was thick with guppies. It was also just as thick with plants. You could not see through it for the plants or the guppies, but he had a balance in there based on that plant-animal relationship that was keeping it going.
That's awesome.
I was always impressed with that tank. It fascinated me.
Are there any more questions in chat? I see people saying good morning and good afternoon.
The taller aquarium, right, Jack?
Yeah, Jack says get a taller aquarium.
Hi, Mud Fat Fish. I saw your comments earlier. Let's see. I want to back up. Need to pronounce a name. Lephalili from Hemicromus lephalili. Yeah, Lephalili or Liphalili. Liphalili, double I at the end. Liphalili. Funny, I never saw. What is it? I don't know. I don't have a clue what it is.
I don't either.
Liphalili.
I'm gonna.
Diva channel. What's her channel? Malaysian trumpets. Did we? Lava rock in her big tank. Works so good. Lava rock's great, and it does provide a slow filtration I don't use it simply because I got myself locked into sand. But if the combination of the two would certainly be a positive.
I
I'm
found
looking
out what
for
that is.
I'm sorry.
I found out what that is.
What is it?
It is a jewel cichlid.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Literally.
I
One of
don't
the
know.
most. It's one of the most detestable fish in the aquarium. They are mean buggers. Probably one of the prettiest fish,
They are pretty.
but they are mean.
Let me see if I can share it.
That's cool. Live a little eye.
Yep. I'm going to bring it into the screen.
What am I doing here?
Need to remove that. That beautiful African jewel fish.
It's a pretty fish. No question about it.
But I do not know how to pronounce it. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Fish and gobies. Ladies bury themselves in the sand. Stormrider Aquatics is talking about starfish and gobies. So you're in a saltwater tank. Wrasses will also bury in the sand. I had one I had to get out of a tank recently because I was introducing shrimp, and wrasses love shrimp. So I had to catch them, and it was a bear. I had to take every bit of hardscape out of the tank. And this was a 400-gallon tray. So it took me an hour to get all the substrate out. And then wait until the next day for him to come up out of the sand. Then the minute I went after him, he buried. So I put my net under the sand and pulled him out, sand and all. Got him.
Awesome.
See, yeah, I'm glad that Stormrider Aquatics brought this issue of saltwater up. I really developed this deep sand bed system based on technology and training going on in the saltwater field. So it works salt or freshwater, and it's really the truth is it also works if you're keeping turtles in a box or any other kind of animal. I don't. I was thinking about mucking out a barn. I guess I don't recommend. I don't recommend a barn, a stable with a deep a deep substrate. That just makes a whole lot of work. But for a lot of small animals, keeping them over dirt, about 4 to 6 inches of dirt, is a very healthy way to go. You may have to clean out, somewhat routinely because the amount of waste can overwhelm the media. But the dirt provides again a natural kind of base. They don't live on rocks typically. They live in a natural environment.
We have a question for you on the screen. Does Father Fish have any outdoor ponds?
I don't because I can't have them where I am. I've just moved to a new home and I'm looking around at doing that. Up to this point, I haven't set anything up at home. Excuse me, because by the time I get there, I'm frankly too worn out to mess with another fish tank. But I think I probably will do some ponds. I miss doing that. I'm in a situation here where I can't do much outdoors. I have a little bit. I have a couple of small ponds. They're really Daphne ponds where I'm able to maintain Daphne and also some aquatic plants in a few little outdoor pools.
Well, Father, I have a preformed pond on my front porch that's 125 gallons and it is about 18 to 19 inches deep. Right now, I have 7 goldfish that are about 6 or 7 inches long in there. And I was wondering, I have no substrate, and what would you suggest me get started with that pond? Is it too shallow to put a substrate?
How deep is it?
About 18 inches.
No, it's not too shallow. If you had 4 inches of sand in there, you would still have 14 inches of water. How big are the fish, the koi or goldfish?
They're about 6 or 7 inches in
They're a pretty
length.
good size. 14 inches is still plenty deep enough. Add 2 or 3 inches of sand. You can do it kind of one bag at a time. But if you'll do that, if you'll get it up to 3 to 4 inches, it will greatly enhance your need to be cleaning it. You won't have that maintenance issue. The only issue is that I have struggles with some of the pond people here in the area. I convince them to do sand. They do it. They love it, and then they send their crew out on an account in a year or 2 years to clean it out, and it makes them nuts because you can't clean sand, so they give up on it. If they didn't bother to try to clean it, it would be fine. And that's really the thing to remember. With the deep substrate, you never, 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 never clean it. Never. As in not ever, even one time. Never try to clean it. When it gets to the point you can't stand it anymore, break it down and set up a new tank. But it should last for 5 to 10 years without any difficulty at all. And if you're careful with it, it'll last your whole life.
You said put sand in a little, one bag at a time. Do you know when that period of time is, or just checking my pH?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, week to week, maybe one bag a week.
All right, thank you.
You could do it all at once. If you rinse the sand, put it in a bucket, put a hose down in it, swirl it around, pour it off. There's a little dust in sand. If you do that, and don't use black sand in a pond because it'll make the fish disappear. Use white sand. It'll make the fish much more visible. If you clean it, you won't get dust in the pond. The dust dissipates very quickly and is really not a problem. And I recommend when people are setting up a new system, they put the sand in and then fill it without stirring it all up. That leaves the dust down in it where it can perform a very healthy function.
Thank you. Chevy Fish wants to know about putting potted planters in my goldfish pond instead of adding the sand substrate. I don't have a problem with that because my goldfish,
preference. Yeah.
My goldfish eat anything green. So
that's true.
So I have a bog planter with lilies in it, and I have a clay pot with iris? It's a peace lily,
right?
That I put out during the spring and summer. They don't bother that unless the leaves get into the water. So I have artificial plants in my pond for coverage, and spawning purposes.
Yeah, the other thing you can do with your pond is build an inside perimeter that blocks the fish from getting to the plants. And then you can use trays or pots or whatever around the perimeter of the tank with some kind of screening or something that'll keep koi and goldfish out, because they do love to eat plants, and they'll eat every plant you put in there.
Rockford Fish Keeping says my dad had them some years ago, and I thought they were normal jewels, so I bought some ends up. They are the wrong fish. Now I found the right ones today. 4 more are coming to join my 6 I got, talking about those lafalai.
Yeah, the jewels.
Yeah.
I call them jewels,
Yes.
or I call them unpublishable things. Really. I've got at least one tank that the jewels have taken over, and they've claimed it as theirs, and I let them have it. Actually, I've got 2 like that.
Are they breeding?
Jewel tanks. They do. I've got some babies. They control their population, though. They're really not all that great a parent.
Any other questions? Stewie LTD says there are several different jewelfish looking cichlids that belong to that genus.
There are. That's right. And there are some breeders have developed some spectacular red jewels that are just really stunningly beautiful. The thing to remember, though, if you have a colony of these fish, is that only one, the dominant male, is going to color up. The rest won't. So you'll have one spectacularly beautiful fish in there, and the rest will all be yes, master. They won't. They won't dare be pretty.
Well, Father,
So,
do you see any questions that I missed?
yeah, I think you've done a good job, Susan. I certainly thank you for inviting me.
Thank you,
on
Father.
your channel. It's
I
been
am going to
wonderful.
go ahead and close this out due to my other schedule that I have to run to. But we will have to continue this at another time, Father Fish, if you're up
That'll
to
be
it.
great. Very good.
All right. We thank you. We thank everyone that came out early this morning. I know it's early on the West Coast, and it's almost lunchtime on the East Coast. So maybe y'all can go grab you a bite to eat and think about these natural aquariums that we're going to enjoy for 5 to 10 years of our life with less labor. How about that?
Right.
And
Invite
healthier.
everybody to join me for our open shop Sunday at noon.
Sunday at noon, everybody come out and check out Father Fish and enjoy that wonderful live stream that he's going to bring.
You can meet some of our customers.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan.
Love you, and God bless. Bye-bye. Okay, we're off.